spoons, right? So let me take just a minute and tell you about something called spoon theory. And I know I'm not going to have your attention because you're reading the slide, and that's okay. So one of the things I do as an artist is make metaphors real. So there's another project I used to do also at Burning Man and unSCruz called Fly Your Free Flag High, where we make actual free flags and then we fly them. So this is another example of something that starts as a concept and then I make it into an actual real thing. So spoon theory, just real quick, was something that I did not create. It's a woman named Christine Misrondo. Has anybody heard of spoon theory? Oh, Spoonies, hi. Right. So the idea is really, it's just a metaphor for energy. And so you use the idea of a spoon to talk about having energy, running out of energy, having to conserve your energy, having to regenerate your energy, stuff like that. Next slide, please. So the idea is that, you might have only a certain number of spoons every day and you got to spend them on the basics of daily living. But if you're somebody who has certain kinds of challenges, you might have fewer spoons than other people do. So this metaphor is used a lot by people in disability communities or people with chronic illnesses, especially people with invisible disabilities who, they look fine. Why can't you come out with me tonight? Why can't you build another giant art car next week? What's that about? And so people, some of them have more spoons to spend on extracurriculars than others. Next one. So some people actually call themselves spoonies. Anyone? Yeah, I see you. One of the things I think is interesting about this concept is that really anybody who's in an environment that has a lot of extra energy required to deal with it, something that's really especially exhausting or overwhelming or chaotic, can also find themselves running out of spoons. Anybody feel that? I fucking feel that. So I think we're all spoonies now, so I hope we can all appreciate this general theory of spoon theory. Where'd it go? Woo! Alright, next. So, spoonies unite! We're all spoonies, that's what I meant. Actually, let's go to the next slide. So that's the basic theory. I became aware of spoon theory back in 2015. I was diagnosed with breast cancer, and I had to go through chemo treatments and radiation treatments and all this other stuff. And I got used to this idea of having to ration and hoard spoons. And so, let me tell you something, it's hard to make art when you don't have a lot of spoons. But if you're committed enough, you can do it just slowly. So, back in 2018, I was actually super inspired at Burning Man that year. I was like, yeah, I'm going to make a giant sculpture, and it's going to have fire, it's going to be amazing. And what else happened in 2020, y'all? What happened after that? Yeah, so I started. I applied for an honorarium grant and got to, get all excited about that. Then I had to put it off another year because I had a kid that was going to college and I had to, move in or whatever. And then the pandemic. But I had started this process of collecting all these spoons to make this giant, it's supposed to be 8 feet tall. It's going to have fire coming out top, man. And talk about, I didn't know what I was doing, but it was really ambitious and it sounded really great. And then I fucking lost all my spoons. So I had collected a bunch of actual spoons to make this project. And I thought, well, all right, what's smaller than that? What can I do with all these spoons? So next slide. So I actually started, and it has been through many iterations. I actually started by doing random spoon bombing in my local park. So I discovered that I liked wrapping the spoons with aluminum wire. Okay, fine, and they looked really cool, hung in my atrium as curtains. And I thought, I got nothing better to do during this pandemic time. Let me go put some spoons in the park. So I did. And actually, let's see. Did we go too far? I thought I had pictures of that. We jumped the slide. All right, well, you'll just have to take my word for it. It looked cool. But the Rangers came and told me to take it down. So I did. It was up for a day. Not you, no, the actual park rangers from this park, not the cool rangers. But that was a proof of concept. Like, oh wow, look at that. They look cool when you hang them on stuff. Yeah, I can do that. So I applied for an art grant at unSCruz. And let me tell you, those fine folks at unSCruz are super supportive and they want to give you money. It's amazing. So what I did, as you can see, is I hung a big rope across an entryway and I hung curtains of spoons and I put some lights on them and there was an entry portal through it that you could ride a bike through or walk through and that was fun. But they kept getting really tangled. And so that was okay, but then I thought, okay, what else can I do with all of these spoons? Next slide. Oh, I'm gonna make a spoon regeneration station. So the idea here was it would be a calm, pleasant place that you could rest and you could kind of collect yourself. It had sound that was soothing and nice, and it had walls made of spoon strands, and it had cool stuff like a spoondelier, and it was just a nice place for people to kind of sit in and rest and gather. So that was fun. But then, next slide. Okay, we're back. That it was so well received, that spoon regeneration station, that I thought, well, I went to all this trouble, I made all this stuff, can I put it somewhere else? And so another community that I've been part of for a long time was the Maker Faire. Anybody been to the Maker Faire? Woo! Yeah, right? Cool people. So I said, hey, can I bring this to Maker Faire? And they said, sure. So I upgraded it a little bit. I made the furniture match because, matchy-matchy. And I had a little interactive journal. I had that at the unSCruz version too. And I tell you what, people who make things are really interested in literally how you construct things. So I had a lot of really fun conversations with people about wire and jump rings and all that stuff. The other thing that actually happened between the curtains and this spoon regeneration station was that I learned to use a drill press. Whoa. And I'm telling you, that changed everything. It really did. And one of the things that had been an issue with the tangling spoons and all that, I used aluminum jump rings for this version. They were soft and bendy, so I could do it with my hands, but then they kept coming apart. So I had to improve that. So, next slide. So this is last year at unSCruz. Was anybody at last year's unSCruz? Did you see this maybe, possibly? So for this one, the other thing is people really wanted to walk through the walls. They really just, even though I had wired them up so that they couldn't, they were like Kool-Aid Man. Like I was constantly fixing that thing. So because burners are so curious, you have to engineer for the burners instead of what you want. It doesn't matter. They're going to play with it, so you got to keep them safe. So I replaced all of those jump rings, and I'll ask you in a minute how many spoons you think is actually in this thing. I replaced all the jump rings with split rings like you put on a keychain. I made my own structure this time out of galvanized pipe and connectors, like Tinker Toys but metal. And then I made some furniture. I made spoonature, which was just various kinds of metal furniture that I decorated with some spoons. And I had made actually another spoondelier, but because of the physics of the situation, which I did not anticipate, it would not bear the weight of all those spoons, because spoons get really heavy. So, let's see, next one again. Yeah, so here's the spoonature. We again had a journal that people could sit and contemplate their own relationship to spoons, what cost them the most spoons, what they did to regenerate spoons, stuff like that. And then people also just drew me lots of obscene pictures, because burners. And yeah, so it also had a window in it, which was like an empty space that didn't have spoons inside it, and doorways that were empty spaces that didn't have spoons inside them. So you could, and it was, this version of it was 2 rooms. So the spoon regeneration station had been 1 room, this was 2 rooms. So you could kind of go back and forth, and you could walk through the wall. Next slide, please. For example, my friends, two kids walking through the wall. And there's the empty window, so you can kind of see it really was something that you could see from either side. Next. All right, and then in between last unSCruz and this unSCruz, there was Burning Man. I was not going to take this giant spoon house that was somewhat physics challenged to Burning Man, so I made a different piece. I made a spoon portal, which I call the Love Portal, because my camp at Burning Man and at unSCruz is Pink Heart. Thank you. You may have also seen at unSCruz our Pink Lounge. I do that too, but that's much less effort actually. But this was fun because you can kind of see it says Love Portal, walk through, and I would stand there next to it and tell people, hey, walk through. You know what? No matter which direction, there's love on the other side, and it was true. Because you could either walk into Pink Heart, where, if you know Pink Heart, there's tons of love there, or we were right on the Esplanade, so there was plenty of love there too. And that one probably will be coming back to Burning Man again this year, because why not? Next slide. Okay, and then, so because I was disappointed in the pipe and connector scenario, we rebuilt it, and when I say we, I mean me and the assist from my amazing partner, who is much more engineering-minded than I am. And we built it on a carport structure that we happen to have sitting around from Burning Man. And this time, I actually made spoon strands to go on the roof. The previous version didn't really have much on the roof. And I figured out different ways to attach them. And you can see, I got to hang my spoondeliers, finally. That was very exciting. And I had a lot of the same spoonature as well. So at this point, does anybody want to guess how many spoons were in the first version? And then how many spoons were in this version? Anyone? James, how many do you think?
I'll open the bidding at 2,000 for the first one and 5,000 for this one.
Yeah, you're 4 and 8? 4 in the first one, 8 in this one? Anyone else? And you can also guess for extra credit how many strands, right? Because each of these strands is a separate strand of spoons that hooks onto a little D-ring that is attached with a zip tie to the structure itself. Any other guesses? I'll tell you. What? 200 spoons? Oh, 200 strands. Okay, yeah. In this one or in the previous one? Okay. Anyone else? All right, I'm going to tell you. So the first version, last year's unSCruz, had 240 strands, so you were close. And that was about, that plus all the decorative stuff on the furniture was about 3,500 spoons. This version, which is coming to unSCruz this year, but with improvements, was 416 strands, so almost double, and about 5,000 spoons. Now I just want to point out, each of the spoons has 2 holes, drilled with a drill press by yours truly. So that's a lot of drilling. Let's see. Next, I think. Right. So the spoon house changes every time it gets installed. This is my slow art theory, right? Because I only have enough spoons, like the energy kind of spoons, to be able to do some things each year. I can't make an entirely new thing. That was really exhausting when I went from like that first version of unSCruz to the second version of Maker Faire. But what I'll do, and what I've been doing, is adding little extra bits. Like now the window has curtains. Woo! And these are the spoondeliers, let's see. And there's a little bit more furniture. So that's why the 1.0, the 2.0, the version that's coming to unSCruz this year is going to be 2.1 technically, because it's still built on this structure. Next slide, please. This is just a picture of people enjoying it at Maker Faire. And you can see there's still plenty of places to kind of sit around and regenerate some spoons and do whatever you want to do in a space, because I like making spaces for people to congregate. Next, please. Okay. So, what's going to be new this year, you might ask?
What's new this year?
Oh, thanks for asking. So, I'm going to do some landscape landscaping. I have a couple examples of it here. If you want to come actually play with it, you're welcome to. They're reasonably sturdy because burners. There's going to be some flower boxes. This is examples of some flower boxes. There's a giant tree. I am still in the process of figuring out how to attach to the ground so it doesn't fall over. And there's going to be actually next slide. Oh, there's a bell that I've made because the big thing I hope is going to be there is a spoonstrument, an instrument made of spoons. That's right. So perhaps you've heard of a glockenspiel, which is like a xylophone, only metal. Yeah. But this is a glockenspoon. That's right, supposedly. And it has an extra set of spoon chimes on it as well, and then this little bell is going to be hanging nearby as well, so that hopefully, because one of the things I definitely noticed is the sound of all those strands of spoons that are free hanging, they chime, they clank in the breeze, or when people go through them, and it sounds really cool. The whole building is kind of an instrument, and people seem to like it. In fact, at Maker Fair, there were tons of kids that would take the spoons and just whack everything in there. So I thought, all right, you got to engineer for what the people want to do. So I'm making a spoon stream. So that's the next thing. Next slide. Okay, so how you can help. If you'd like to help, you can donate spoons. You can imagine, now that I've told you, it takes a lot of spoons, actual spoons, real life spoons. It takes a lot of spoons to make all the spoon stuff. So I do, of course, run around and try and find them at thrift stores and garage sales and things like that. I admit it, I also go to restaurant supply because they're cheap and they're easier to drink. But if you have any old spoons sitting around, bring them to unSCruz. I'm going to have a collection box there. Like I said, the other thing I do is the Pink Lounge, which is inside the Luna Hall. And I will have a box in the Pink Lounge that is for spoons. So please, bring me some spoons. That'd be great. You can also, of course, donate money. I've got Venmo and PayPal like any good artist does. And I'm also looking for other opportunities to install spoon things, whether or not it's this actual spoon house or just some of the other spoon things that I have made. I would love to have other ideas for installation opportunities, because otherwise it just sits around in boxes in my garage and gets sad. So especially if you know anybody who might want something with flatware in a restaurant set, that's great. I would totally do that. So I'm also wildly open to collaboration opportunities. Do you like forks? Do you like knives? Let's talk. Or anything else, that's fine.